Shalom and welcome to Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible. Today we're looking at Leviticus chapter 19. There are 37 verses. We have a lot to cover, so let's get to it. Before I start, I just want to introduce myself and what I do. So this channel is called Secrets Revealed, the Holy Bible, as I said, and what we do is we look at the Masoretic text, which is pretty much 99% of what the Bibles come from modern day Bibles. And we compare it to the Septuagint, which was actually the Bible that Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, the Messianics out there, uh, that was the Bible he had during this time. It was there before he was even born as a human being, 300, 400 years before he came. And it was the version of the scriptures that they had in his day. They had the original in Hebrew, but that was destroyed in the when the temple was destroyed. So the only existing version of the original that Moses did is the Septuagint, and what we have in the modern day Masoretic has been doctored and edited very heavily to censor and erase all proofs, well, not all, but most proofs that Jesus Christ is not only the Messiah, but also Son of God and is God. So that's what we look at in this channel. We look at the truth of the Word, and we just present it. I present to you the truth of the Bible as it is, uncensored, unfiltered. And I'm getting flack for it now. I just received a strike recently because I'm speaking the truth. So please, if you support this, what I do, and this is the work of God, really, preaching the truth about the Word, please subscribe, please like. It means a lot so that I can continue doing this work where I reveal the truth of the Bible when you look at the Septuagint comparing it to the Masoretic. So without further ado, here we go. Verse 3, reverence versus fear. Okay, it's not a big one, but the next one is Sabbaths. Keep my Sabbaths. It says that in both. So this doesn't mean just the weekly one. It also can mean the sabbatical years as well, and the Jubilee. And the high Sabbaths, appointed times in Leviticus 23, which we're going to get to very soon. Verse 4, follow not versus turn you not. Verse 5, acceptable from yourselves. Yeah, you shall offer it. That's omitted. That part. Just write that down there. It says here, and if you will sacrifice a peace offering to Yah, you shall offer it acceptable from yourselves. Versus if you offer a sacrifice of peace offerings to Yah, you shall offer it at your own will. So what's the difference here? And the difference is it must meet the requirements that Yah set in order to be acceptable. It has to be acceptable. And I would actually insert a comma here. Let me just insert a comma. There was no punctuation back in the day, so this is open to interpretation in terms of punctuation, the commas, and etc. So it actually would make more sense if it's you shall offer it acceptable, comma, from yourself. So it's coming from you, and it's not acceptable from yourselves like you're just accepting it because it's from you. No, it's not acceptable to yourself. It's acceptable to Yah. That's who it needs to be accepted from, not from anyone else. So it must meet his requirements that he has set, very specific requirements in order to be acceptable. Versus, it says here in the Masoretic, offer it at your own will. So just do what you want. Doesn't matter if it's acceptable or not, or meets my requirements. Just do it. You can't do it that way. That's incorrect, because if that was true, then Cain would not have been refused when he gave his offering to Yah. It would have not been. It would have been accepted. It would have been accepted. Cain's sacrifice, his offering, would have been accepted. But now we know the truth of the matter. It's not. There's multiple reasons. Obviously, he didn't divide it correctly, and he also was not right with Yah in his heart. in terms of his relationship with his brother. That's probably the bigger factor there, that he had something in his heart, and they had this dispute, and he was on the side of very much animosity and hated his brother, wanted to kill him. He was planning and planning to kill him. So we have a lot of information about that, and we did do a presentation on that. Very much Genesis. I can't remember the chapter right now, but just please look at that at your own time. So next is verse 6. The word thoroughly was omitted. Verse 7, unfit for sacrifice versus the bottom in the book. So it's much too strong of a word, I think. If it should be at all eaten on the third day, it is unfit for sacrifice, shall not be accepted. So it's just not, it's not acceptable. That's all. But if it's eaten on the third day, it's abominable. No, it's not an abomination. It's just not. It's not. It isn't right. It's not. Doesn't meet the requirements. Abominable is too strong of a word in my mind. Verse 8, souls, I should say, versus soul. Verse 9, complete the reaping with exactness. Here it says here, complete the reaping. You shall not complete the reaping of your field with exactness. Reaping, and you shall not gather that which falls from your reaping. So when you're gathering and then some things just fall on their own, don't gather those from the ground, just leave them there. But let's look at the Masoretic. It says here, you shall not wholly reap the corners of your field. Okay, so don't reap the corners, neither shall you gather the gleanings of your harvest. So it's similar in terms of the gleanings, but it's saying here the corners of your field, whereas here it's with exactness. That can be open to interpretation. Maybe exactness is very, we call them penny pinchers. People are very, they like to hold on to everything. They won't be generous enough to just leave a little bit for the poor or whoever wants to eat. So exactness is just someone who's very, very on the ball, but not on the ball in a good way. Just, like that, like an iron fist. They won't even let go of even the smallest little. They're not flexible at all. They're just very strict, with strictness, with authoritarianism. All right, next verse. The whole verse is different, so let's read it. Masoretic first. You shall not glean your vineyard, neither shall you gather grape of your vineyard. It says in brackets, every grape. You shall leave them for the foreign stranger. I am Yahweh Elohim. So don't, essentially what I read here is don't gather the grape, okay? And every is actually not in the original. So don't gather the grapes. Okay, leave them for the foreign stranger. That's pretty straightforward. Let's see the Septuagint. What's that say? You shall not go over the gathering of your vineyard. Okay. Neither shall you gather the remaining grapes of your vineyard. Okay. You shall leave them for the poor and the stranger. So what's the difference here? So in the Septuagint, Sept for short, the Sept says you can gather your grapes, but not the remaining grapes. So possibly what has fallen, so you are gathering the grapes, but just not the remaining. What is probably just like in the previous verse. The previous verse in what verse was that now? Verse 8, such as in verse 8, where you're not using exactness, you're more generous, so you're probably leaving what is fallen on its own accord. Whereas the Masoretic text says, you shall not gather grape. Shall not gather grapes, because everybody's not there. Don't gather grapes at all. We'll stop. But here it says the remaining grapes. That's a big difference, a significant difference at least. So I'm going to add that right there, SD. Significant difference. We're going to stop at a few points in this video to change the current topic area, because there are some interesting, pretty big topics to talk about here. Verse 11 says, lie. You shall not steal, you shall not lie. Neither shall one bear false witness as an informer against his neighbor. So what does that mean? Isn't that redundant? So in the Masoretic, for short is Maz, you shall not steal, neither steal falsely, neither lie one to another. So it's looking like dealing falsely versus bearing false witness, that's a whole different ballgame. Dealing falsely is still wrong, but bearing false witness as an informer against his neighbor, um, actually, that's a big difference. I didn't notice that until now. So let's just put that there uh, as an informer. So that's omitted. So that's a significant difference as well. There's a lot of significant differences in this chapter. That is a pretty significant difference because let's just look at this part. Uh, let's start here. Let's rewind. You shall not lie. Okay, what does lying mean? Uh, well, it's different than bearing false witness. Stealing is stealing. That's pretty straightforward. But lie, I believe lie could mean adultery because the next command talks about bearing false witness. The Ten Commandments don't repeat themselves. God never said don't lie, as in bear false witness, full stop. He said do not bear false witness as an informer against his neighbor. It's very specific. It's like saying, uh, for example, don't do work on the Sabbath day, but you're just saying don't do work. So stop including, someone could say cooking is work or taking a walk is work, but no, working means your living wage, means what do you do in the 6 days to provide for yourself to earn a living wage, to your livelihood. That's what it means. It doesn't mean don't do something like healing because that's what some people interpreted that to mean. So when Yeshua came here, was healing, restoring people to full health on the Sabbath day, they said that's work. Even though that was a miracle, only God can do those things. So big contradiction there. So it isn't a lie as in don't lie, even white lies. I believe the Bible is not against white lies. You can see that in many accounts where people just full on lie to people's faces. But the bigger principle was not that lying is good, but the bigger principle was they lied in order to preserve life. So that trumps lying. White lies are on the lower echelon of bearing false witness against a neighbor. That's very serious. But preserving someone's life uh, trumps the lying, white lies. But bearing false witness against a neighbor, that the intention of that is not to preserve life, it's to destroy someone's reputation and destroy their livelihood, their life, and their ability to socialize and ability to be successful. They're going to be ostracized from society essentially. And you can do irreparable damage against them by bearing false witness as an informer against his neighbor. So that's very specific and very specific language. Let's look at the Maz again. Neither deal falsely. So dealing falsely, again, it's biblically that's also true, but that's not what the verse says because we shouldn't have false weights. We shouldn't present something as the truth when it isn't. But just me doing these videos, for example, is a way for me to deal uh, to not do this falsely. I'm showing you the truth. Neither shall one bear false witness as an informer against his neighbor. So that's all I'll say about that verse. Let's move on. Anyway, I do believe it's somewhat redundant in a way, but it is very specific that it's talking about bearing false witness as an informer against his neighbor. So I don't believe it's repeating lying and then lying more. No, it's saying I believe you shall not lie as in commit adultery, two people lying together to do the act. Okay, verse 12. That went longer than I thought it would go. Unjustly versus falsely. Okay, um, that's an interesting difference. And then the holy name. So this is not just any name; it's a set apart name of your Elohim, not just the name. It's a holy name. That's an important distinction. That's one of the most important attributes of Yah is set apartness. Okay, verse 16. Deceitfully, you shall not walk deceitfully among your people versus a talebearer. So the second half I don't understand. So let's read it in both. Let's read the second first. You shall not walk deceitfully among your people. You shall not rise up against the blood of your neighbor. Okay. Don't rise up against the blood of your neighbor. Yeah, that's a hard one to understand. You shall not go up and down as a talebearer among your people, neither shall you stand against the blood of your neighbor. So the context of this is you shall not act unjustly in judgment. So don't be partial. Don't show partiality and walk deceitfully. Shall not rise up against the blood of your neighbor. Shall not hate your brother in heart. So the context of this is people hating and murdering. Um, so don't rise up against the blood. So when you think of blood, this is blood being spilled most likely. So someone who has already died, and you're rising up against this murder. So it's like you're not that you're uh, going against the murderer. It's like you're supporting it. Like you support the murder. So the way I understood it when I did these notes is that if your neighbor has been murdered or killed, uh, you rise up against them, against them, the reputation, you make life harder for their family during the hardship. So it would make sense because it's the neighbor is not just the person who died, but also even the family. Otherwise, you can take it literally and say their blood has been spilled, and you rise up against it, meaning you don't respect their blood, or you rise up and you disregard that it needs to be buried or concealed or even healed or stopped. So that's a very literal interpretation. I think I lean towards the first one, but you know what? It could be either one at this point. Uh, it's basically you aren't respecting your neighbor, whether their blood was spilled or they're dead already, and you're treating them with much disrespect. So that's not very good. You're not being neighborly. All right, so let's take a pause here and change the title. Okay, so this is a big difference in verse 18. You has been omitted, so it changes the whole meaning of this verse. So let's read it in the Mass first. You shall not avenge. So that's the big difference we have. You shall not avenge, but the Except the saying, your hand shall not avenge you, and you shall not be angry. Okay, so your hand shall not avenge you, meaning you can avenge for others. Not that everyone can do it. There's a specific person that can. It's called the revenger or avenger of blood. So if this is true, you shall not avenge, then there's no such thing as a revenger of blood. There should not be that position at all, that role. Uh, but there is. So this is a wrong verse. It's actually the person who was wrong, their hand shall not avenge them, because that is a that is an action that is to be done by specific party. That is i.e., the reverend, not reverend, the revenger of blood, the avenger of blood. That's the person that is able to do it because they've been assigned that task. But that's not for us to avenge on our own. So it's either the avenger of blood or it's Yah himself, because he's the one who really takes vengeance or avenges on our behalf. Uh, so that's that part. You shall not bear any grudge against the children of your people. That is untrue because people always hold grudges, whether good or bad. But people, that's human nature. We hold grudges. But it says you shall not be angry with the children of your people. That's a whole different story. Bearing a grudge is different than being angry. Being angry with the children of the people uh, is an anger that can lead to murderous thoughts. But bearing a grudge means, okay, we have this history and there's a grudge there. And, not that it's always good to have a grudge, but some people go to their graves still having a grudge. Um, there are people like, was it Simeon and Levi? And they did what they did, and their father, uh, although he blessed them in a way, he described what they did, and that was kind of like a grudge. He still had that grudge against them. He didn't completely forget what happened. It's not that he hated them, but he still remembered it, and that stood out for him. But anyhow, he wasn't angry with them. It wasn't anger. You shall not be angry. It's a whole different story. Um, don't be angry with the children of people. Children of your people. That's a big difference too. Um, 9. But, it's, verse 18 is very different in these two versions. Verse 19, law versus statutes, okay, with one of a different kind. This is the interesting difference here. It says, you shall not let your cattle gender with one of a different kind versus with a diverse kind. So this could be a breed of cattle, different breed of cattle, because it's talking about cattle, or a mixed cattle. So diverse kind could mean mixed cattle, but it's not a different species altogether. Um, diverse versus mingled. This is talking about the seed. And then a mingled garment of two materials. So it's saying two, woven of two materials in brackets versus linen and woolen. So this is similar, but the NT only includes linen and wool. It doesn't talk about everything because the original command includes possibly all materials. Don't mix any materials. And going back to the cattle again, yeah, this is a hard command. Not hard, it's hard to keep, but I mean it's very, no holds barred, that don't mix cattle with another kind, different species. So don't mix cattle with horses or with ducks or something. Don't let them gender. That's what it is. Gender means don't let them have sex with other kinds. So God made um, every kind after their kind, every species after their kind. They shouldn't be mixing. They have to procreate with their own species. But the human race is one species. We're not different kinds of races. We're just one, different colors. But just like dogs, yeah, they come in different shapes and different looks and different hair type, but they're all dogs. And same with cattle too. So let's move on to the next one. It should be pure, the material. Uh, Going back to the two materials, not even silk or cotton, for example, should be mixed. Okay, verse 20. A home servant kept for a man. That's an interesting term. Versus a bondmaid betrothed to a husband. So Lisette is saying that she is a home servant. She is somebody who is serving, like a maid, something like that. Not a fiance, not someone to be engaged. But here in the Naz it's saying, oh, she's betrothed to her husband. She has been betrothed. Um, shall be scourged. They shall not be put to death, because she was not free. So, but the Torah does say, the law of God says, when you lie carnally with a woman, and that person is betrothed, they will both be killed. There's no exceptions for that. So this is contradicting itself. The Masoretic contradicts itself. But if you look at the Septuagint says that if you lie carnally with a woman, and she was a home servant, but she has not been ransomed. So we're talking about her voluntary being indentured, an indentured servant, voluntarily so. Her freedom has not been given to her. They shall be visited with punishment, but they shall not die, because she was not set at liberty. So she's not. Notice she isn't engaged here. That's why they can lie together, have sex, and I don't think it's the R word, R-A-P-E. I can't say it anymore because I think like that from YouTube. But the R word, R-A-P-E, rape. So she has not been ransomed. So that's the she doesn't have doesn't give she has not been given her freedom. So this is allowed. This is allowed, and there's no death penalty for that. Okay, for neither one. For neither one. Uh, so the Masoretic just contradicted itself, because there is a law that says if somebody lies with a woman who is betrothed, they will be both stoned to death. They will be killed. Okay, so move on. Verse 23. Again, there's a lot to cover. It'll be like an hour long. Verse 23, whenever versus when, and then which Yah your Elohim gives you. So let's see. Whenever you shall enter into the land which Yah your Elohim gives you, and they replace the Lord with Yah, because it's not actually the Lord. It is the Tetragrammaton. But you probably know that already if you've been following the series. Saying that for new people. Whenever you shall enter into the land which Yah your Elohim gives you. So versus into the land. Okay, so it's just a land. But no, this is a specific land. This is the land which he gives you. It's like the promised land, essentially. Or it could just be the land, whatever land you possess that he gives to you. The whole verse is different. So let's read on. You shall plant any fruit tree, then shall you purge away its uncleanness. Okay. You shall plant all manner of trees for food, then you shall count the fruit thereof as uncircumcised. Okay. So it's unclean, there's uncircumcised. That's I don't know how to take that. Circumcision normally talks about the private parts, but or untouched. But anyway, unclean. It's unclean. We'll purge it. Okay. Let's keep going. Its fruit shall be 3 years uncleansed to you. 3 years shall be as uncircumcised to you. It shall not be eaten. So it's not clean. It's not permitted to be eaten. But you can't really circumcise the fruit. I mean, you can try, but that'd be kind of funny. But I think it's talking about all fruit, not specific fruit that is shaped like a. So moving on to 24, a subject. In the 4th year, all of its fruit shall be holy. The subject of praise to Yah. So the subject was omitted. Okay, verse 25 says different things. One says the fruit is an increase. Its produce is an increase. The other says eat so that it may yield. Eat it so it may yield more, which doesn't make logical sense because if you eat, you subtract the fruit and you have less. But stating what it is makes sense. Stating what it is makes sense. In the 5th year, you shall eat the fruit. Its produce is an increase to you. Okay, so the produce is an increase, and you're going to eat that. Straightforward. But here in the Mass, in the 5th year, you shall eat of the fruit, that it may yield unto the increase thereof. So they're connecting these two lines of thought, which should not be connected. It should be the 5th year, the fruit will increase, and you shall eat of it. I don't know why it's saying. It's like they took the set and they just didn't know what to do with it. You shall eat the fruit, its produce is an increase to it. Okay, I don't know, maybe they should have omitted this part. You shall eat the fruit thereof, the increase thereof. No, it's pretty straightforward, but they added too much there. They went a little overboard with their adding. You're not supposed to add to the word, for the curse that will be added to you. And you know what? Not only did the translators get a curse, I believe they're cursed, but we get a curse too because we're cursed by the lies. Our lives are actually more burdensome, and we have the false impression of what kind of God we serve, or what God we worship, what Elohim is that term instead. Okay, so moving on to the next verse, we're going to change the title up. Let me just do that now. Okay, so in Leviticus 19, verse 20, oh, hold on, I didn't change the title, did I? Right, so in verse 26 of Leviticus 19, totally different. Let's read the Mass first so we can get a sense of the difference. Look at the lie first. You shall not eat anything with the blood, neither shall you use enchantment, nor observe the times. Okay. Versus eat not in the mountains. Oh boy. So it doesn't even talk about blood. And then it says, nor shall you employ auguries versus enchantment. And then nor divine by inspection of birds. Okay, what? So birds is completely different. There's a huge, huge difference. I mean, there's a huge difference. That HD, huge difference. Well, we see, thankfully, there's a parallel in Ezekiel chapter 18 and verse 15. Sorry, you can't see that from the camera. Move this window up. There it is. So Ezekiel 18:15 talks about what does it mean to eat on the mountains. Um, let's read, here it is, 18:15. Let's read in both. That has not eaten upon the mountains, neither has lifted up his eyes to the idols of the house of Israel, has not defiled his neighbor's wife. So in the Seth it says, and if he has not eaten on the mountains and has not set his eyes on the devices of the house of Israel, and has not defiled his neighbor's wife. So this is talking about people who followed in their father's sins. Eating on the mountains is another way to say, which relates to pagan worship. So this is the worship of false Elohim. That's what it's talking about. So this is only confirming what this is saying. You do not eat on the mountains. Do not eat on the mountains, which is talking about these are the practices that people did that Yah did not like. I'm not saying don't eat on the mountain, period, full stop, like never eat anything on the mountain. No, I'm talking about eating as it relates to these offerings that we did, or they offered to other Elohim, or they just didn't do it correctly, because they're not supposed to do this on the mountain, or they're not supposed to offer just at any mountain. There's a specific mountain you're supposed to do it on, probably it's that too, but this relates more to paganism, false worship. Again, building on this same verse in 26, this may allude to high places on the mountains, it may allude to shrines on the mountains, or even the idiom to eat things that are sacrificed to idols, which means to partake of the world, not literally eating things sacrificed to idols physically, but spiritually speaking, if you abide by the commandment to not eat things sacrificed to idols, so that idiom actually means do not partake in things belonging to the world, and uh, which the God of this world takes pleasure in honoring. So not the fruits of the spirit, but the works of the flesh, is outlined in Galatians 5, verses 16 to 21. So that's a very high spiritual expansion on that, but it was just a reflection I had. It could just be very well related to pagan worship, high places, things like that. But looking at the spiritual dimension, this is eating things sacrificed to idols, because this relates to the eating as it relates to false Elohim. Spiritually speaking, means don't mix with the world. That's like an idiom. Anyway, moving on, I'm going to change the title once more. It's the last time we're changing the title. So as you can see, we're talking about verse 27, round cutting. So let's read this around both. You shall not round the corners of your heads, neither shall you mar the corners of your beard. So very different than compared to what the Sept is saying. That's a big difference here. Because round the corners of your heads means rounding it. Like say someone's cutting the back of my hair there, so they're gonna make a round corner or a square corner, whichever way. They'll make it round because that's going to be breaking his commandment according to the Masoretic. No, it's saying you shall not make a round cutting of the hair of your head. So this can literally mean curvy, round like a circle, like the monks have the halo style hair, or they cut a circle and just leave the hair around it. Or it could be like a mushroom cut, like the Egyptians had. Maybe it's saying don't do a round kind of bowl cut. Maybe that's what it's saying. And to be honest, the aesthetics for that cut is not very nice anyway. And then the beard portion, do not mar the corners of your beard. So if you have a beard, you have a big thick beard, you're gonna trim it corners, that would be breaking the law, according to the Masoretic. But no, it says do not disfigure your beard. So big difference when someone has a beard and they're just, doing grooming and it looks nice and trim, versus someone disfiguring your beard, like cutting it all weird ways and just having, it's not aesthetically pleasing, or it's just disfigured. It's a disgusting. Either that, or it's doing something very intricate. But disfigurement means it's probably not pleasant. That's my understanding of that. So it's not don't mar the corners of your beard. So if you have a beard and you're just doing the corners, that's not wrong. It's don't disfigure it. This is a huge difference. Yeah, it's a huge difference. Put a H to the there. Okay, so do not make it unappealing, such as shaving half of it off. That was scriptural. There's a precedent for that. It's very different than corners of your beard, as I mentioned, which can connote simple grooming or doing a fade. Some men do fades. This figure has a connotation of being unpleasant to the eye, aesthetically speaking. I just said that. And then verse 28, moving on now. The only part associated with the dead is making cuttings in your body. Everything else, including tattoos or inscribing on yourselves marks, is not to be done. I've heard some messianics say it's okay to have tattoos because it is only not to be done for the dead. If not so, let's read it in its context. You shall not make any cuttings in your flesh for the dead. Okay, so that's related to the dead. And again, the punctuation is not really there, but just for reading the verse, you can see that for the dead is related to the cuttings. So don't cut in the flesh. And really, why would anyone do that? It's not fair. Don't print any marks upon you. So that's not, don't, do not print any marks upon you. So this could relate to the dead in a way, but, or it could be taken as just a separate statement. But either way, don't make any tattoos. Do not print any marks upon you. You shall not make cuttings in your body for a dead, for a body. It doesn't even say dead body, it's just for a body. Interesting. I didn't even notice that. So, but dead was inserted. Dead was actually inserted. In verse 28. And notice I turned out. That's great today. Added dead. Yeah, just proves you can miss things. Okay. So dead, dead, or a body. Just a body. Could be living, could be dead. But either way, don't make cuttings in your body or a body. For anybody. Maybe it could be anybody or just a body, living or dead. You shall not inscribe on yourselves any marks. So inscribe is different than print. Interesting. I have to write that down as well. Inscribe. Yeah. So I'm not advocating the use of tattoos. I'm not advocating for that, but inscribe is a little bit different. It's not wildly different. Inscribing means just to write marks, and printing is I don't know. Maybe printing is like could be like a temporary tattoo. But, anyway, I guess that's a discussion for another day. Can we just cut and paste that? That's the wrong verse. Okay, so that's that verse. There's really a lot to cover in this chapter, isn't there? And then verse 29, profane. Wow, you shall not profane your daughter to prostitute her. It's a little redundant to say in the Mass, do not prostitute your daughter to cause her to be a whore. That's redundant. It's like saying don't eat to eat. It's saying by prostituting her, you're not just prostituting her. You're not by whoring her, you're not prostituting her. I mean, obviously you are, but that's not all that's happening. You're profaning her. You're, you're profaning your daughter so many ways, physically, spiritually, mentally, so many ways. You're damaging her. So it's redundant, I feel, in the Mass. And that's a significant difference. There's actually quite a lot of differences. I don't know which. Verse 30, sanitaries, plural versus singular. Okay. sanctuary, sorry, not sanctuary, sanctuary. There, verse 32, rise up. Says here, you shall rise up before the hoary head. Okay, so it says pretty much the same in both, but how I understand this verse is rise up could mean you wake up before them. Rising up before them means, chronologically speaking, you're waking up before them because you need to take care of these people, because you need assistance with their activities of daily living. So maybe do that. That's one way to take the verse. Or another understanding is you should rise up, like physically stand up, meaning you offer them your seat. Or, for example, when they enter a room, you stand up to show them respect. And that's something that was done in olden times, where someone would enter a room, someone of respect and distinction and authority, you would, whatever you're doing, you would stop what you're doing and stand up to show respect. So maybe that's what it is, and that makes a lot of sense for it to be the last one. But it could be all three. But I'm gonna stick with, well, maybe not the second one. That one's a little too simple. I'm gonna go with the last one, because rising up means you actually stand up and show them honor. Giving them the seat is honorable to do, but I don't think it's just that. I don't think it. I also don't think that we're exempt from, offering an older person our seat. I think we're exempt. I'm just saying that in the grand scheme of things, it's really the attitude we have, the respect we show our elders, something that is completely not promoted in our society and culture. So respect your elders. That includes giving them their seat. That includes taking care of them when they're old and they need your help. For example, the fifth commandment: shall honor your father and your mother, which means to show them dignity and respect all the days of their life. So you're going to take care of them. You're going to rise up before them, take care of them. So I really feel it's the last one. It's the mindset to take, approach the elderly with because of their experience and their wisdom and their status. Okay, verse 33. Vex, we shall not vex a stranger versus afflict him. So, vexing people think is like annoying. Don't vex me, annoying me. Affliction, excuse me. Okay, we reached an hour, so we went way over time. I didn't want to go this long, but we're right at the end, so let's wrap it up. Do not afflict a stranger. That can mean, slaving them or making life a burden for them. But you're afflicting them. You're not making life easy for them. You're intentionally giving them more burdens. You're burdening them. You're making life harder. You're persecuting them. Okay. Verse 35. Scales are omitted. Okay. And verse 37, the last verse. Laws and ordinances versus statutes and judgments. So those are the big differences that I covered there. Up to 3, talking about round, cutting of hair, and tattoos. I don't think that's the one I want to present, but maybe that would give more views. And then talking about the eating on mountains. I don't know if that's really the big one. Making a bench for others. I don't know if that's the one. I think the one that more people would want to search for is probably around hair and tattoos. I'll put, is it permissible for us to have, for believers to have round hair, not cut, round cutting and tattoos for believers? So that's the title. Doing the brainstorming section right now. Thanks very much for your time. Just watch Secrets Revealed, Holy Bible, and until next time, may our Father bless you and make your way prosperous. Thank you. Shalom.